YouTube subscribers. Welcome back to Bellaocity Travel. So, today I just want to talk about some things that happened. So, I mentioned that I was going to talk about an incident that happened in the airport. So, I'm in Batumi, Georgia, and the flight here was about 14 hours long. I had a 5 hour layover in JFK. So I flew from Raleigh, North Carolina to JFK, which was about an hour flight. And then I flew and then I had the 5 hour layover there. And then I flew from JFK to Istanbul, Turkey, which was like 10 hours. And then I flew from Istanbul, Turkey to here in Batumi. So, what I want to talk about, and I have a sweater on because it's a little chilly out here. So, what I want to talk about is what happened with my flight. So, I was originally supposed to leave on October the 2nd, and which was a Tuesday, I think. So, I'm packed up, I have all of my things. I wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, call my Uber because I'm at my son's house because, I don't have anywhere to live. But that's by choice. I mean, before I started traveling, I sold everything. So I basically live out of my suitcases. I have been for almost 4 years. But so, I was ready, went to bed early around, I guess I went to sleep around 7, 7:30. And I got up around 2 a.m., 2:15, you know, did what I had to do, got myself together, luggage, everything packed. Called the Uber. Uber was there at like 2, probably like about 2:25 or 2:30. And the first thing they said, they were like, "You're going to the airport. You're going really early. Most people only get to the airport around 4." And I was like, "No, I think I just need to go a little early. I want to be there at least by 3." So go there, smooth Uber ride. The driver was really nice. And I get to the airport, and it's right around 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. So when I get there, I notice that there is a line. And, I'm asking, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, the systems are down." What? The systems are down. So they're like, "Yeah, the systems are down, and we need you to stand in this line." Okay. So remind you, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go to stand in this line where there's probably already maybe 25 or a little bit more people in front of me. Okay. So we're just standing there, and I'm chit chatting with another lady who was actually supposed to be flying to the DR, but she was gonna fly from Raleigh to um, Miami and then Miami to DR. So she was like, "Oh yeah, this happens a lot. It's happened before. The systems will come back up." So the systems did not come back up until maybe about 5:15. So we stood in line from 3 a.m. until 5:15, and the system did not come back up until 5:15. Remind you, my flight left at 6 a.m. So, I told them, I'm flying with this airline, JetBlue, I think. And then I was going to fly with Turkish Airline once I got to JFK. But they're like, "No, you're in the right line." So, standing in line until 5:15 a.m., since 3 a.m., get to the front counter, to the desk to check in, because of course you wasn't able to check in online. You couldn't use the kiosk or anything. And the lady's like, "Oh, no, this is not the right line." She was like, "This is for American Airlines only." And I'm like, "Are you sure? Because I was told that I was supposed to stand in this line." And she was like, "No, you need to be in the other line." So I go to the other line, which is on the opposite side. So I go to that line, and the line is not long or anything. So I get there, and I'm like, my plane leaves at 6 a.m. It's by that time, it's like 5:20, I don't know, maybe a little. It might have been about 5:30. I don't remember, but she was like, "Oh yes, the girl from JetBlue. She was really nice and stuff." And she was like, "You should have time." So she gave me my ticket, and I checked in. Well, checked my luggage in. Everything weighed out. I was able to take 50 pounds because I had a check bag and a carry on, but I checked both of them since was able to have two check bags, and I just had my book bag or my backpack rather. So check my luggage, and I'm like running through the airport, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. Have to go down the escalators, and I'm sliding around, smoke behind my sneakers, and I get there, and nobody is there. It's only like the airline attendant. The plane is, I see the plane going down the runway, and I'm like, oh man, that's not what I said, but I was like, oh, you know. So I was just so upset because guess what? My luggage was on the plane. So my luggage is on the plane. My luggage is on its way to JFK in New York, but I'm still stuck in Raleigh. So, when I asked the guy, he was like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, my luggage is there. He's like, I don't know what you should do. So I actually, he's like, you need to try and call, where you got the tickets from. So I got the tickets from Expedia. So I called Expedia, and the lady was like, well, let me call Turkish Airlines and see what we can do. Turkish Airlines wanted to charge me 500, almost $500, like 400 and something dollars to change my flight. So it was a nightmare. So I was like, oh my God, this cannot be happening because I had already changed my flight before, just because of some things that had happened with my family. So I had to change my flight anyways. So I was like, no, I'm not giving them this much money to change a flight. I was like, this is not my fault. Something has to be done. So, I hung up with them and I was like, okay, well, let me call you back. So, and then I was like calling my friend, and I was calling like a friend of mine, and then I called my son, and then I called another girl that's like a sister to me, and I was like, okay, what do I do? I was in tears because I'm like, my luggage is gone, and I'm still sitting here, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be leaving today. So, you know, I called Expedia back, right? And I was like, look, this is what happened at the airport. The servers were down. I was like, is there anything you could do where I don't have to pay any more money? And they were like, the best thing to do is to try to talk to someone in the airline, talk to a supervisor or something. So there was one girl that I tried to talk to, but this is how I know I'm back in the States. Everyone had an attitude. Okay, everyone had an attitude. The girl that I asked about, who I needed to talk to had an attitude. When I was standing in line, there was a lady that yelled across the airport and told everyone, you know, don't come to the counter. The servers are down. Don't keep coming up here and we have to tell you the same thing. And remind you, people are walking in steady. They don't know what to do. And after I had been there for like 30 or 40 minutes in that line, it was probably 100 people behind me. So people were concerned. People missed their flights. The lady that was standing beside me, she missed her flight. And I just felt like everyone was so nasty. No one was really trying to help you. They didn't want to answer questions. They were just being nasty. And I was like, what is the need for the attitude? There was no need for the attitude, right? So, that was something else that pissed me off because I'm like, here I am. It's not my fault, right? The flights are expensive as hell, right? Already. I think my flight one way was almost $1,000, right? And they're acting like really shitty towards me. Like, it's my fault. You would think they would have grounded the planes because their server was down, but no, they didn't ground the planes. People missed their flights. There were a lot of people that were going to Florida, that were going to Miami, and probably had a layover there and then to go somewhere else. But they did not ground the flights or anything like that. So, it was just a mess. So getting back, so I'm just reeling myself back in. I had to make sure I told you about the rude flight worker that was there yelling at people. Some people should not be working in a customer environment. They're not fit for it. People pay a lot of money to fly. And when you have people that work in a customer service environment and you can't ask them questions and they're not helpful to you, that's a problem. And I only see that in the US. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's all I see in the US is attitude. Well, if you don't want to work there, don't come to work. You know, if you don't want to do your job, then find a job that you don't have to deal with people. So, anyways, okay, I'm calming down now. So, I decided after I got off the phone with Expedia the last time, the second time rather, I went ahead and went to the counter at JetBlue and I spoke to this lady. Her name was Sherry. I will never forget Sherry. And she was really, really nice. And she was actually the one that checked me in. She was like, "Did you miss your flight?" And I was like, "Yes, I missed my flight." And she was like, "Okay, okay. Well, you know, your luggage is gone. It's going to stay in New York. They're not going to send your luggage to Batumi without you. You know, you have to be checked in for your flight." And I'm like, "Okay." She was like, "But I can help you." She was like, "I can get you a flight. You know, I can get all of your flights for you. You don't have to pay any extra money or anything like that." She's like, "But of course, it's not going to be today." Okay. By then, it was like 7 a.m. So I had been in the airport since 3 a.m. and it was like after 7. So, you know, at that point, I was upset. I had tears in my eyes. I'm not even going to lie because I was ready to go and my flight was already long, 14 hours minus the 7 or 8 hours worth of layovers. So she got me, all of my flights and stuff, and I was worried about my luggage. And she was like, "No, no, it's going to be in New York for you." Okay. So I was able to get a flight for the next day. So here we go again. After I got my tickets, I got my seats and everything. Oh my God, a mosquito is biting me. Jesus. I got a ticket and everything. So once I got the ticket, I was able to catch the very next flight, the flight the very next day. So I had to leave the airport. Well, first I had to call my son because he was at work and I'm staying with him, while I was in the States. I had to call my son and because I couldn't get inside the house. So I had to call my son and, let him know, okay, what happened? And, can you come back to the house to let me in? So, he was like, "Oh, I could be there in an hour." So I went back to the house, had to get an Uber, right? Because, I don't have a car anymore. I don't have anything anymore, just luggage. So I had to get an Uber and went back to the house. And my son met me. He was there, really quickly. I was just so frustrated. So guess what? I had to do it all over the next day. Had to do it all over the next day. Now, I will say this. I still have to tell you about locating my luggage. Okay. So the second day, I was able to catch my flight, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. Everything, you know, the only good thing is I didn't have to worry about luggage because my luggage was supposedly in New York, right? So, I can say this, being a solo traveler, it's not always glitz and gold, right? I mean, there are times where things go perfectly right, and there are times when things just go sideways. It goes completely wrong. And people always ask me, "Oh," or they say, no, people always say, "Oh, I wish I had your life. I wish I could do what you do." And I love traveling. I love meeting people. I love experiencing new cultures, learning new languages and things. But sometimes the logistics of traveling can be a hassle. And I will say this, as long as I've been traveling straight for 4 years, I have never been mistreated or I've never seen so much attitude in my life in the 2 days that I was in the airport. I don't understand. The US is supposed to be full of, you know, great customer service and all of this. But I feel like sometimes people are so miserable that they can't do their job. I mean, it was pure embarrassing the way that the people were acting in the RDU airport. Raleigh Durham International Airport. I've never flown out of the airport. I've only flown into the airport. I flew into the airport when I came back from Albania, but it was it was stressful. It was so stressful. I didn't, I couldn't understand. And this is the one thing I can say about being abroad. People are more helpful. I love the US. I'm glad to be an American, but I feel like people are more helpful when you are abroad. People want to help you. People offer assistance, and they don't do that a lot in the US. You know, I didn't see it in the airport that day. And people were trying to get home to their families. They were trying to take trips for work and things like that. And it was really a shame that um, there was no empathy, you know. And this is just what I want to say. Things don't always go right. I don't have the perfect life. I do enjoy what I do, but there's always some downtime. There's always a downside of traveling and, you know, um, all of that. Sometimes you'll get an Airbnb and it ain't like the pictures, you know, or, sometimes you'll get an Airbnb and the bed is not that soft, So I say this, thank you guys for following me and, with my journey and everything. And I want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, because everything is not always, you know, beautiful. You get stressed, and I was stressed. And by now, I'm like, okay, all I have is my luggage. I have two suitcases and a backpack. Two suitcases where I didn't know where the hell it was. Okay, supposedly in JFK. But we're going to do that video another day, maybe tomorrow if I have time. Because remind you, I still work. I work online, so I usually work sometimes like 6 hours a day. But just stay tuned to see like if I find my luggage, what happened, because that's all I have is my luggage, my luggage, and my sanity. But at this point, being in that airport, I had almost completely lost my mind. And I just felt like a lot of people should have been reprimanded for the way they were treating people. There were a few people that I saw that were being helpful. Like I said, the girl Sherry, she was really nice. But the other people, they, they just didn't care. They didn't care. Oh, and even through security, like going through security, they were even nasty to people, you know. And when I got through security, I forgot to mention this. When I got through security, they something happened to the machine, the scanner that scans all of your luggage. The scanner was down, so people were asking questions and things like that, and they were nasty. Attitude, attitude, attitude. So I don't know. I mean, like I say, the U.S. is a good country. It's a great country. It's a land of opportunity. But when it comes to the way that we treat each other sometimes with no regard, it's pure embarrassing. It really is. When you can go to other, and we're supposed to be one of the richest, countries in the world, and we have all these laws and we have all of these things, but people don't know how to treat each other. People don't treat each other with respect, and it's embarrassing. This is one thing I can say. Um, I don't think I would ever live back in the U.S. I really don't. I've gotten used to being treated with respect. I've gotten used to people being helpful, people wanting to help, people showing empathy. And then to go back to the States and then people just kind of give you their ass to kiss when you are not at fault, and when they're supposed to be helping you. Yeah, nothing I want to deal with. So, yeah. But you guys stay tuned, so I can let you know what happened with my luggage, because that story isn't isn't great either. But I did finally make it here. All right. So you guys stay tuned, and thank you for supporting my channel. Please let's help my channel grow. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. I got some more videos coming. I'm going to try to do more lives because sometimes it's just a little easier for me if I'm walking to stop and do a live. So I'm going to be talking about some other things. I'm going to talk about dating because that's one thing that I don't think women travelers really talk about dating that much. You see on YouTube, you see men, they are always talking about dating and their dating experience. But I think sometimes women are afraid to talk about dating and their experiences with dating. So that's something else that I'm going to probably talk about. Well, that I know that I'm going to talk about maybe sometime this week. I'm going to try to put out a few videos this week. But you guys have a good day, I think, because it's nighttime here. It's like 8:09 p.m. There's like an 8-hour difference from the U.S. But you guys take care and have a good night. And thank you for tuning in to Bellaocity Travel.